AGHAMAZING, my dear students! Welcome back to our science video lesson. I am your science teacher, Teacher Larry, and welcome to AGHAMAZING way of learning science. In this video, we will be talking about the two types of reproduction in all living things, the sexual and asexual reproduction. Observe the following pictures. What do the pictures share in common? That's right! The picture shows the parents together with their offspring. But how does a parent organism produces a new organism or offspring? It is through the process of reproduction. Reproduction is the process by which organisms like humans, animals, and plants form new individuals of the same kind. Reproduction is the ability of an organism to produce new individuals, is one of the characteristics that distinguish living things or biotic organisms from a non-living things or abiotic organisms. To reproduce means to make a new life. Reproduction sustains the species so that it does not become extinct. Reproduction in an organism may be classified into sexual and asexual reproduction. Let us talk more about the differences between these two types of reproduction. Let us now discuss sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction, it is the type of reproduction that involves two parents, a male and a female, to produce a new individual or organism. Among animals, a male produces a sperm cell and a female produces an egg cell. Sperm cell and egg cell are collectively called gametes. When these gametes unite, the process is called fertilization. A zygote or fertilized egg is the result of fertilization. The zygote then develops and becomes an embryo. It will continue to develop until it reaches a maturity to be born. Since there are two parents involved, the male and the female, this will produce an offspring that looks different from its parents. Hence, its trait and genetic makeup offspring is unique or not identical to the parents or siblings, since it will be a combination of two characteristics that leads to the genetic variation of the offspring. This is the reason why humans do not look exactly the same as our parents, because we reproduce sexually. Can you give other organisms that reproduce sexually? Other organisms that reproduce sexually are animals such as chickens, dogs, cats, goats, and pigs, and flowering plants. The advantage of sexual reproduction is that it creates variation in the genetic makeup of the offspring. This variation enables the offspring to adapt successfully to the changing environment. On the other hand, the following are the disadvantages of sexual reproduction. Since it involves two parents, it requires looking for a partner. It also requires more energy. Because of this, the rate of reproduction is slower. Asexual reproduction is the creation of new organisms from one parent and does not involve the combination of gametes or sex cells. Since there is only one parent involved in sexual reproduction, the offspring solely inherit the hereditary information from its parent. In asexual reproduction, the genetic makeup of the offspring is the same as the parent. Asexual reproduction is the main form of reproduction for unicellular organisms such as bacteria, protists, fungi such as mushroom, animals such as starfish, and plants such as potato. Let us now talk the advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. The advantages of asexual reproductions are the following. First, the organism does not need to search for a partner. Second, reproduction requires less energy since no mating is required. Third, the time taken for asexual reproduction to complete takes only a short period of time. Because of this, a parent organism can produce many offspring at one reproductive cycle. On the other hand, the disadvantages of asexual reproduction is that there is a little or no variation in the genetic makeup of the offspring. The offspring inherits the weakness of the parent. For instance, if the parent carries a disease or are prone to a certain disease, then the offspring can be susceptible to the disease. Some types of asexual reproduction includes budding, spore formation, fragmentation, vegetative propagation, and fission. Let us talk about spore formation. Spore formation is a type of asexual reproduction where organisms reproduce by forming spores. Spores are single-celled reproductive unit of non-flowering plants, fungi, and algae. Examples of organisms that reproduce through spore formations are molds, ferns, and mushroom. Next is budding. In budding, a new organism is formed from an outgrowth from a parent. This outgrowth is called bud. When the bud matures and develops, it separates from the parent and becomes a new organism. Yeast, sponges, and hydra are examples of organisms that reproduce from budding. The next type is fission or binary fission. In binary fission, an organism grows and duplicates its genetic material, then divides into two. The result are two genetically identical daughter cells. The word fission means to split or to divide. Bacteria and amoeba are examples of organisms that reproduce by binary fission. The next is fragmentation. Fragmentation happens when a new organism grows from a fragment of the parents. Each of these fragments develop into a matured, fully grown organism. A good example of organisms that reproduce through fragmentation are planarian and starfish. The next is vegetative propagation. It is a method where new plants are obtained from the parts of old plants like stem, roots, and leaves without the use of any reproductive parts. Ginger, onion, strawberry, and kamote are some of the plants that can be propagated using this method. Let us now compare and contrast the two types of reproduction. The main difference between sexual and asexual reproduction is the number of parents. Sexual reproduction means combining genetic material from two parents, while asexual reproduction produces offspring genetically identical to one parent only. Sexual reproduction occurs when a new individual is formed by the union of two sex cells or gametes. Hence, the offspring is unique or not identical to the parents or siblings. This leads to the genetic variation of the offspring. While asexual reproduction occurs with only one parent, all the traits of parent is passed on the offspring. As a result, the parent and child are identical, with very little chance of variation. In sexual reproduction, cells divide through meiosis. Meiosis is a special type of cell division in sexually reproducing organisms used to produce the gametes such as sperm and egg cell. On the other hand, cells divide by mitosis through fission, budding, or fragmentation in asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, the unit of reproduction is the gamete that may lead to fertilization. On the other hand, asexual reproduction, the unit of reproduction is the whole parent body, bud, fragment, or a single somatic cell. Lastly, sexual reproduction is commonly found in higher or complex organisms such as mammals. On the other hand, asexual reproduction is commonly found in lower forms of organisms such as bacteria and in some plants. That's all for now. In our next video, we will be discussing about biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem, as well as the different ecological relationships. See you in our next AGHAMAZING video.